Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of That's Ruddy Mysterious, a podcast of short tales about true mysteries. What created the Potomsky Crater? Who was involved in the 1963 Great Train Robbery? I'm not going to solve those mysteries, but they'll be interesting to learn about. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. Transcripts and references for all episodes can be found at that'sruddymysterious.wordpress.com. No apostrophe and no exclamation point. Today's tale is about the 300 million yen robbery. In December of 1968, a thief pulled off what was at the time the largest bank heist in Japan. Who did it? On the morning of December 10th, 1968, a Nissan Cedric company car from Nihon Shintaku Bank was carrying 294,307,500 yen, or about $817,520 to the Toshiba factory in Fuchu, a suburb of West Tokyo. Today, that would be worth about $25 million. The money was intended to be year-end bonuses for the employees at the factory and was being carried in metal boxes stored within the vehicle. The Cedric was just about 180 meters, or just over 590 feet from the factory, when they were stopped by a police officer on a motorcycle. They were just outside of Japan's biggest prison. The officer told the 4 employees in the Cedric that their manager's house had been blown up. He continued that the Cedric was wired with explosives and crawled beneath the vehicle to inspect it. Suddenly, smoke began pouring out from beneath the vehicle. The officer yelled to the employees, "It's dynamite! It's going to blow!" The officer told them to run for their lives, and seeing the smoke, the employees complied. The officer then got into the driver's seat of the Cedric and drove the vehicle away. After driving the Cedric away, the thief drove to a park and switched to a stolen Toyota. This Toyota was found abandoned several months after the crime. It contained the metal boxes that had carried the cash, although the boxes were now empty. The bank employees explained that they believed the thief because the bank had received bomb threats in the weeks leading up to the theft. When the officer told the employees the bank manager's house had been blown up, it seemed plausible to the employees. The investigation cost over $12 million. Investigators believed that the theft was carried out by someone familiar with either the bank or the factory, because how else would he have known about the cash? The police immediately set up checkpoints on the roads in Tokyo, hoping to catch the thief. It was determined that the smoke that poured out from underneath the vehicle came from a road flare. The thief had left behind 120 pieces of evidence at the scene of the crime. This included the motorcycle that he had been riding, which was determined to have been fake and painted to look like a police bike. Most of the evidence was false and left to confuse the investigators. A reward of 170 million yen was offered. The police force was 170,000 strong, and hundreds of detectives were hired to question the over 110,000 people who became suspects throughout the investigation. The investigation was so stressful that supposedly 2 of the investigators died during it due to the heavy workload. The police questioned every young man with a motorcycle in the area repeatedly. The investigation became the most thorough investigation carried out by the Japanese police at the time. An early suspect was the 19-year-old son of a real motorcycle police officer. The young man had a background in gang activities and would have known how to paint the motorcycle. The young man died by suicide, taking potassium cyanide that had been purchased by his father within a week of the robbery on December 15, 1968. His father insisted on the young man's innocence, which the police were able to confirm after his death. December 1969 brought with it another suspect. The man was arrested because he looked like the composite sketch of the thief, and after allegations had been made by one of Japan's major newspapers, Mainichi Shimbun. The man was an employee of the Government Office of Canada in Tokyo. He was in his mid-20s. The man had an alibi. He was taking an exam at the time, so his accusations were cleared. On November 15, 1975, the police had yet another suspect, just as they were reaching the statute of limitations. The suspect was a friend of the initial 19-year-old suspect. He was found in possession of a large sum of money, which the authorities believed was possibly linked to the heist. The man would have been a teenager when the crime took place, and he wouldn't disclose the source of his money to the police. Investigators were unable to produce enough evidence to connect him to the theft. At some point, some people believed that manga writer Watanabe Jun was responsible for the crime. He had written a similar story to the theft. This, however, was just speculation. The statute of limitations was reached on December of 1975, without the crime having been solved. Civil liabilities for the theft ran out in 1988, meaning the perpetrator was now free to make money off the story of the theft, but still no one has come forward to say they were the perpetrator. Makoto Watanabe is an associate professor of media and communications at Hokkaido Bunkyo University. He said of the theft, one of the most convincing suggestions was that he was a police officer or the son of a serving officer, which would explain how he knew about police procedures and how he obtained the uniform, but also how he was able to evade the subsequent search. He continued that there was a rumor that the thief was someone with inside knowledge, but that the police were unable to connect any employees with the robbery. He went on to say, "The scale and audacity of the crime impressed people back in 1968 and would also impress people if it happened today. But it was also the fact that he got away clean when a crime of this magnitude would usually guarantee that the police eventually caught him. It's the mystery of who did it and then how he managed to keep it quiet for half a century that still captivates people today." In the 1980s, a reporter from Shukan Heisei News magazine said he had identified the perpetrator. He claimed Yuji Ogata was responsible for the heist. The reporter supposedly traced Ogata through the 500 yen note that Ogata had given to a 10-year-old boy for good luck in 1968. Supposedly, Ogata had admitted to carrying out the theft after getting away with it. Ogata, however, was notorious for telling tall tales. He was 55 years old. The reporter claimed that Ogata admitted that he and an accomplice snuck the money past police roadblocks the day of the heist using a light truck which had been transporting glass panes. This theory was debunked by Focus on January 27th. Focus said there was a lack of evidence and all the theory was an attack on Ogata's credibility. Then Shukan Shinshu, a news magazine, denounced the article. Shukan Shinshu asked why Ogata was always asking for loans if he had stolen all that money. Takashi Obayashi, the writer of the Shuken Hoseiki series, explained that Shinshu attacked Ogata out of a rivalry. He said that they felt threatened by Ogata and attacked him with a smear campaign. He went on to say that they were unable to provide any hard evidence of Ogata's guilt. He told Tokyo Sports in January 2023, "Their circulation is down, and what's more, a sister publication, Shinshu 45, recently began running its own series claiming it had solved the robbery." Who pulled off the 300 million yen heist? How was he able to get away with such a large theft for so long? What do you think?
Thanks for listening to today's episode of That's Ruddy Mysterious. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a review and follow That's Ruddy Mysterious to be updated about new episodes. Tune in next Tuesday for another thought-provoking tale.